Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ms. Brown, and I'm back for day 2 of our week, which is addressing and identifying figurative language in text. We're going to discuss a little bit of plot today as well, but we won't get into it extensively until tomorrow. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so day 2, how does figurative language relate to plot? Our objective will be to identify and analyze figurative language and short examples of text. We will identify and analyze the construction and impact of figurative language. We'll also touch on how cause and effect relationships impact the plot, and we'll get more into identifying that tomorrow, but we'll touch on that a little bit today. Today, you'll need a notebook and a pencil. Okay, these are just the notes from yesterday, so I'll do a quick recap. We know that figurative language is when you use a word or a phrase that does not have its normal, everyday, literal meaning. These are the types and examples of figurative language. I won't go through each of them individually, but you'll see them every day this week. And that's just a continuation. Also, we have notes regarding plot, as I've spoken to you earlier, as I've talked about earlier. We'll go back into the elements of plot and relate them to cause and effect and how they impact, how the cause and effect impact the story. So we'll get into that later this week. All right, so on to our guided practice. Today, you're going to use the vocabulary cards that you made yesterday as a reference, and you'll complete the figurative language activity with those cards. So if you look at the image, these are the cards that we made yesterday. On one side, we had the definition, and then on one side, we had an example, and on the other side, we had an illustration. So you will use those cards to assist you with this activity. This is a short figurative language activity. It's 10 questions. You're going to read each example, and then you're going to select the correct type of figurative language that's being used in the example. You can just indicate it by the word, actually, because the answer key will indicate the word, not the letter. So you can write simile, metaphor, hyperbole, whatever type of figurative language is being used in your notebooks, okay? I would pause the video here and give you about like 5 or 10 minutes. So if I were you, go ahead and pause, and then I'll see you in 10. Okay, you should have paused the video by now, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the answers. These are the answers to the activity that you just completed. The first one was simile, personification, metaphor, hyperbole, personification, personification, simile, metaphor, hyperbole, simile. Okay, we're on to independent practice. So for today, you will read the short story, A Field in Winter. Then you will answer questions using your figurative language vocabulary cards as a reference. At the end, you'll complete a little mini plot chart for your story. So you'll do that in your notebooks. I've attached the link to A Field in Winter. So this is the story. And I can read it to you as you guys read it to yourselves. It says, the field lays barren and cold, as bitter as a morgue. It's forlorn and lost in time, sitting in a brittle winter light that is too weak to brighten the day and too feeble to cast a net of shadows. Like a goose down quilt, the snow lays thick and smooth over the land, unbroken by any adventuresome step. For an acre in every direction, there is only white, the kind of nothingness that can taunt you like a writer's empty page. Not even Mother Nature remembers the flowers and seeds laying underneath like hidden treasure, waiting to be discovered in the hull of a sunken pirate ship. A speck of black in the gray sky grows bigger, a small, silent, solitary ghost. With a showy ruffle of wings, it lands on a sturdy little shrub at the end of the field. A flash of scarlet, and yellow on its shoulder stands out like a military badge against its glossy black feathers. The bird preens and grooms without an audience to admire him. He warbles his song, a tiny coach whistling for other players to join in his game. But there is no reply. As quickly as he arrives, he leaves again, vanishing into the heavens. The ancient trees are weary with cold and can barely stand up any longer. The ethereal jingling of ice-laden branches as they collide in the northern winds make a lonely wind chime no one hears. The rusted gate leans hard against the post like a tipsy king being held up by his sober courtier. Its gilded frame is chipped and tarnished, now just a faded memory of its former glory. It no longer stands sentry, but has shifted open, allowing all of nature to waltz through its doors into the abandoned palace. Underneath it all, a warren of white rabbits slumber, soft balls of angora rising and falling in synchronized rhythm. One heartbeat with many hearts, ears twitching. They dream of greener days in a brilliant horizon bathed in gold. Here are the questions. Number one, find three similes in the passage. Number two, find two metaphors and explain one of them in your own words. Number three, give one example of personification. Number four, is the field actually as empty as it first seems? Why or why not? Remember, you are answering the four questions and then you will complete a mini plot chart for your story. Okay, this is a link to the answer key. So this will answer the four questions. These are examples of similes that are in the passage. So one is as bitter as a morgue, like a goose down quilt, like a writer's empty page. And then there are a number of other similes that you could have used as your example. Find two metaphors and explain one of them in your own words. Your metaphors include a small, silent, solitary ghost, a tiny coach whistling for other players to join his game, a faded memory of its former glory, and so forth. Again, there are a number of metaphors you could have used. Number three says, give one example of personification. An example could be, it no longer stands sentry. Okay. Number four, is the field actually as empty as it first seems? Why or why not? This is a sample response, as this is a response that you guys come up with on your own. So a sample could be this. The field looks empty, but there is life in the bird, in the wind chime noises of the tree branches, and underground with the sleeping flowers, seeds, and hibernating bunnies. Okay, we're at the end of our lesson, so this is your written reflection. You're going to write a story about the picture below. You'll use three examples of figurative language when you write that story. So here's the prompt. That was when the sidewalk chalk creatures came to life. You're going to, again, tell the story in your notebooks, and you're going to use three examples of figurative language in your story. So if I were you, I would use those vocabulary cards to help me do that. Okay, I thank you guys for joining me today. Tomorrow, like I said earlier, we will get into plot and how the cause and effect of plot impact plot, as well as how the figurative language is used within the plot of a story and how it's used in reading passages. So we'll combine both together starting tomorrow, and we'll have a stronger focus with plot. Um, Tonight, you can either read a novel of your choice or a short news article for 20 minutes. I want you to try to see if you can identify 1 to 2 examples of figurative language being used in your reading selection, just to kind of see if you can spot it right away in a different type of selection other than the ones that I've given you. So you can either read a chapter from a novel, or you can find a short news article on CNN or one of the other popular news internet resources, and you can try to identify 1 or 2 examples of figurative language being used in those selections. I thank you guys for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Take care.